If they took your title away today, would people still follow you? No position, no rank, no title, no authority, no organizational chart that tells people that they have to follow you. Would you still have influence? Because most people will spend their entire career trying to build a resume, and they neglect the very thing that leadership requires: credibility. Welcome to the Lead 360 podcast. I am your host, Anthony Waite, and it's so good to be with you for another episode as we talk about life, leadership, and leaving a legacy, one that you will one day be proud of. Today, what I want to do is kind of share the idea that we have to stop focusing on credentials and start building our character. Your position might get people to comply with you, but it's your character that makes them trust you. Today, what I want to do is give you 5 points that are going to drive this idea home so that you can start analyzing your leadership, your influence, and who you are, and most importantly, who you need to become instead of trying to do more. And at the end of this, I want you to focus on looking at the words that you say and the actions you take and find where you are out of alignment with your assignment. Your assignment that God's given you to lead, to influence and impact other people. Because it's one thing to say who you are, it's another thing to prove to other people who you are. And we're going to talk about that today. So point number 1 is we have to understand that position is given, credibility is earned. Credibility is not guaranteed. It's not a gift. It's something that we have to earn through consistent action that says, I care about you, I believe in you, and you can trust me. It's not the words that we say, it's the actions that we take. Most importantly, it's how we treat people. It says that you want to test a true character of a man. Watch how he treats people who can absolutely do nothing for him. That's where you realize and you see who people truly are, how they treat those below them. Do they look at them as somebody who's beneath them, who's less than? Or do they treat them the same as they would treat their boss, the same as they would treat that executive, the same that they would treat the person who makes the same amount of money that they make every single year? You see, what I found is that credibility is earned through showing up when it's inconvenient. It's owning our mistakes. It's making the difficult decisions when nobody's watching. You see, credibility is accumulated through hundreds of moments that nobody may never see. It's the integrity piece. Who are you when people are not looking? Who are you when the camera's turned off, when nobody's watching? Do you keep the promises that you make to yourself? Or do you consistently lie to yourself? Because if you can't keep the promises that you make to yourself, chances are you're not going to be able to keep the promises that you make to those you lead and those you love. You see, it's doing what you said you would do, regardless of how you feel. You see, your title tells people what you are responsible for. Your credibility lets them know if you can be trusted with what you're responsible for. And if we're responsible for people, it's our credibility that lets them know that they can trust you to lead the way. The other morning I was reading my daily devotional, and Proverbs 17:2 was the scripture that I was reading. And what it says basically is that the servant can ultimately possess more influence than the son, because position without character will eventually get exposed. And you've heard me say this multiple times over and over again. If you've been with me for some time, it's only a matter of time before your character is found out. And what we see today are a lot of leaders that talk a big talk, but they don't walk the same talk. And when we do that, we have an incongruency with what we say and what we do. And ultimately, our life is really a journey of aligning what we say and what we do. You see, you can't preach health if you are not practicing health. You cannot preach love if you are not practicing love. You cannot preach leadership if you are not willing to lead. And so we cannot just be a preacher, we must also be a practitioner. So let me ask you this. Who are you when your position can't help you? When the title comes off, when the uniform is taken off and hung up in the closet, is your identity hung up with it? Who are you when your position cannot help you? I want you to think about that question and audit your life right now. When your no position can help you, who do you truly become? Point number 2 is your leadership and your life have to match your language. You can't tell people what you intend to do, that intention must be backed by action. Action without intention is reckless. Intention without action is worthless. And so what that means is I can't say, well, I was going to do that. I meant to do this after the fact. It doesn't matter. It's looking at your life and saying, if this is my intention, how do I back it with action? You see, people don't trust the leader that you claim to be. They trust the leader that they have consistently experienced. So what is that experience that people have when you're present? Do they know who they're going to get day in and day out? Or is it dependent upon the emotions or the baggage that you're carrying around? They cannot go too long without trying to guess what leader they're going to get. You have to consistently show up in the manner of your standards, your core values, and your virtues. And what that means is I know what I truly value. I strive every day to live in alignment with my core values. And I do it on a consistent basis, so much so that I don't have to tell people what I truly value. They can see it through my actions. They can see it through how I carry myself. Most importantly, they can see it throughout my life, throughout my results that I have. And so for you, you have to take audit and say, is my identity aligned with my beliefs, and then my beliefs driving my behavior? Because if the behavior that you exude when you're leading people is negative, chances are there's a belief that's flawed. And if that belief is flawed, the chances are your identity is flawed as well. Your identity drives your beliefs, and your beliefs will drive your behavior. So how do we change this? Well, it comes from building proof. Just because you worked out one day doesn't mean and doesn't give you the right to go preaching about health. Just because you showed up one day for your family doesn't mean that you get to go train people on how to be a good parent. It's what you do every single day so that you don't have to tell people what you value. You don't have to tell people what you believe. They can see how you operate every single day, and they know the standard in which you hold. The problem with most of you is that you're trying to live up to a standard of somebody else. You're trying to meet the expectations of other people. And our job in this life is not to just meet the expectations, it's to exceed expectations. Mediocrity meets expectations. Greatness exceeds expectations. And when you exceed expectations, that's where the nobility rises. That's what's noble in life, is doing more than what's expected. There's nothing noble about doing what you're supposed to be doing. But yet we see these influencers, we see these people who want to get a round of applause. They want to get patted on the back. They want to be validated for doing what they already should be doing. So don't be surprised when you step on stage, when you walk into a room, nobody listens. Nobody shows up because you're doing what's expected. I want you to think about, how can I do more than what's expected? How can I exceed expectations so much so that people want to follow me, that they don't just have to follow me? What I've found over 23 years in the military is that people have to respect the rank, but they don't have to respect the person. I want you to become the leader where people want to follow. They want to respect you for who you are, not what you do, and most importantly, not because of the position that you hold. That's a very difficult thing to do for most because they're so busy, tied up in what they do instead of who they need to become. And so for you, understand that your job is not to meet anybody's expectation. Your job is to exceed expectations. And what that means is that you have a standard and you don't deviate from it. And that standard is set by your core values, and it's backed by your virtues, the habits and the consistency and the discipline that you cultivate in your life every single day. So stop trying to get followers. Stop trying to get a pat on the back. Stop trying to seek validation for doing what you should already be doing. There's nothing noble about doing your job. When you start exceeding the expectations and living above the norm because you have a standard, that is where your influence and your impact intersect. And when you can find that discipline and you have the influence and the impact, that is where your life takes off and you find your purpose. But most people live aimlessly through life because they're seeking external solutions for an internal problem. This is an internal job. This is an inside job. I can't give you a cup of motivation or a cup of confidence and say, here you go, now go forth and do great things. This is built by you through building proof that changes an identity, that drives your belief, that changes your behavior. So if you're not getting the results that you want because you're not treating people the way that you should be treating them, then you need to go back and ask yourself, where's my identity flawed and where am I treating myself in this manner? Because how you treat yourself is determined, it will be determined and determine how you treat other people. If that's the case, then we need to look at how we care for ourselves. You cannot give what you do not have. And if you don't care about yourself, you don't value yourself, you're not going to care for other people. Most importantly, you're not going to value other people as well. And so stop chasing that validation. Stop trying to meet a standard. Stop trying to meet an expectation. Instead, exceed the standard, exceed the expectation by your core values, backed by your virtues, the daily habits and the choices and discipline that you make every single day that's in alignment with who you are becoming, not just what you are trying to achieve. Now that brings me to point number 3. Consistency builds trust. What does this mean? It's not what you do one time that gives you the influence. It's not what you do occasionally that builds trust. It's what you do over and over and over again. And so the question I want you to ask yourself is, am I the same person no matter who's in the room? Because if your character changes, depending on who's in the room, that's not character, that's performance. And so stop trying to perform for other people. Stop trying to live seeking that approval of other people. If you feel like your job and your life is a continual performance, that I got to be on, I got to be this type of way in front of these type of people, then maybe leadership isn't for you, because that's not going to build trust. And most people fail here because they don't want to lose friendships. They don't want to, lose people in their life. They don't want to, break their social circle. And what I'll tell you is the law of sacrifice says this: if you're going to go up, you're going to have to give up. And sometimes that means giving up that facade of who people think you should be. Stop trying to impress people and instead impress upon them who you truly are by living out your core values and living by a standard. Regardless if they decide to stick around, that doesn't matter. That's none of your business. In fact, the more and more authentic you become with who you truly are, the more people you're going to lose, but also the more people you're going to attract because of who you truly are. If you want people to fall in love with the fake you can only fake it till you make it for so long before you're found out. Start looking at your character and asking yourself, are people following me for this version of that I'm portraying, or are they valuing and trusting me for who I truly am? And when you do this, it might hurt for a little bit, but eventually it's a freeing way to live, because you're not here to make people happy. That's a clown's job. Your job as a leader is to make people trust you and follow you. So stop acting like a clown and start acting like a leader. Stop trying to make people happy and start looking at how am I making more leaders by being the example to those I lead and those I love. And it's not easy to do, but it's necessary. Point number 4 is a thing that I learned over the last 5 to 10 years as I started stepping into leadership and leading at a director level. Real leaders give away the credit and they take responsibility. When your team wins, do you take the credit? Do you look for the award or the reward? Or when your team wins, do you celebrate them? Because what I have found is that whenever we win and we celebrate our team, we put the spotlight on them. That builds our trust and it builds our credibility. You see, most leaders will want to take the spotlight. They want to take the credibility and the credit for the team win. And what I have found is that when you win, we have to say, we did it. When we fail, I have to look at it as the leader and say, I did it. How can I fix it? And this is the part of leadership that nobody likes, because at the end of the day, you're the leader for a reason. And when things go wrong, it's going to come back to you, not your team. You can't point the finger. You can't place blame on other people, because ultimately, when you said, I'm the leader, I have the title, I have the position, I take responsibility. That means that when things go south, you're going to be the one that's responsible for it. But when things go good, when things go well, then we have to celebrate as a team. And I have to put the spotlight on them and say, look what they did. Look what we did as a group. Because without them, there is no you. Without people, there is no leader. So we have to look at things from this. So we have to look at this and say, if we win, that's on you. If we lose, that's on me. You see, You see, whenever we have a weak leader in charge, when the leader is weak, it looks like this. Success, I did this. Failure, they did this. They point the blame. They look at who's the matter with me, and they never take responsibility or accountability. And so that's one of the biggest things as leaders when we're building our credibility, when we're building trust, is you're willing to own the mess, and you're willing to share the success. And here's the hard truth. If you need credit to feel like a leader, then the chances are you're probably not ready to lead. Maybe leadership isn't for you, because leadership is not about getting the spotlight. It's about using your influence to elevate the people around you. Point number 5, we have to stop managing our image and start building our character. You see, reputation is what people say when we're in the room. Character is what they say long after we're gone. And if you build the character, the reputation takes care of itself. So are you worried and focused on getting more followers, more titles, more bios? Are you looking at the highlight reel, trying to show people how good it really is? Because if that's you, that's not leadership. Leadership also says we got to share the struggles. We also got to share the failures. We also got to share that we're in progression. We can't chase perfection because nobody wants to follow a perfect leader. A perfect leader says, I am here and you can't do what I do. You'll never be good enough. But when we share the adversity, when we share the struggle and how we're overcoming it or how we overcame it, then now we become dealers of hope and we're able to tell people, look, if I can do it, so can you. And it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to prove it by sharing our journey, by showing that we weren't handed this overnight. That's why I say built, not born. Nobody's born with these character traits. Nobody's born with the ability to lead. But every great leader has built themselves into that person who's able to influence and impact other people. That's why you'll hear me say built, not born. I wasn't given everything on a silver platter. I wasn't given the opportunity to go to college right out of high school. I wasn't given the opportunity when I joined the military to do what I get to do today. I had to build myself into the person who was able to do this. So I had to stop asking myself, what do I need to do? Instead, who do I need to become? That's why you hear me say be, do, have, because if you can become the person, then you're able to do the work necessary to have the influence and impact that you want in the lives of those you lead and those you love. So let me ask you this, what are you working harder on, your reputation or your character? Because your reputation is a facade. It's a fake it till you make it. And it's only a matter of time before you're found out. And so your reputation is what people think you are. Your character is who you truly are. So my encouragement to you is to stop worrying about the reputation, what people think you are. Stop performing for other people and build your character and start becoming the person you truly are meant to be. So as we bring this in for a landing, I want to give you 5 character traits that I want you to consider. And I want you to audit yourself and ask yourself, how well am I doing in each one of these 5 character traits? How well am I exuding these character traits in my current leadership at the current level? Number 1 is consistency. Am I the same person no matter who's around me or who's in the room? Number 2 is choices. Do my decisions primarily serve myself or the people that I've been entrusted to lead? Number 3 is credit. When I win, do I elevate others or do I look to elevate myself? Number 4 is character. Am I building integrity or am I managing perception? Who do I need to become? And number 5 is credibility. Have my actions earn the trust that I am expecting from other people? Notice I said my actions, not my words. And so take those 5, consistency, choices, credit, character, and credibility, and ask yourself, how well am I doing in each one of these areas? And which ones do I need to work on? Which ones do I need to focus on? And again, don't answer based off of intention, answer based off of your evidence. What is the proof that I'm building my character? What is the proof that I'm building credibility? What is the proof of my consistency? What is the proof based on the choices that I made? What is the proof based on how I give credit and how I take credit? And then give yourself a score and see how you're doing. You see, everybody intends to be a great leader, but you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, what does my life prove? What proof do I have? So in closing, I want to leave you with this. Leadership isn't built when somebody gives you a title. It's built in the ordinary, the mundane decisions that we make way before the title arrives. It's who we are, not what we do. Never get those two confused. So at the end of the day, we got to ask ourselves, is my leadership relying on my title and my position, my credentials, or is my leadership built through trust and credibility in the lives of those I lead and those I love? So over the next few days, I want you to ask yourself, what can I do today to become more worthy of somebody's trust? What can I do today to be more consistent for those I lead? What can I do today to show up the same person that I was yesterday, ready to serve in a selfless capacity as opposed to selfish and self-servant? I'll see you on the next episode.